My hypothesis is this. So I think your thing about it being inefficient, I think with things like when they do things like layer two scaling, like, and it might not be the perfect tech system and it might be no better than AWS or whatever, but I think humans being the mimetic beings that they are, crypto will be a thing. And even if you end up, with, let's just take DeFi. And this is how I think it will end up. Let's just end here. I think you'll basically end up going, there will be a bunch of stuff that will end up regulated, and that will be some kind of merge between old Wall Street and the new crypto stuff. So you'll have FTX, Coinbase, and all of these crypto people that are actually centralized and are they, and they'll all do KYC, they'll do AML, they'll be centralized, and they don't care about crypto because they care about making money, and they'll all come under this umbrella, okay? And Michael's sit there going, it's not fucking crypto, what's the fucking point, right? But it will exist because humans are greedy, and what Wall Street sells is stories, and there will be a new story of number go up, and you'll just have a new asset, and it'll be able to do new things. And there will be interesting things that they can do that they can't do at the moment in terms of the tokens, and tokens will become a thing, but it will all be under smiley new Wall Street thing. That to me is separate from, let me finish. That to me is separate from, this is what the true benefit of crypto is: censorship resistant, decentralization, privacy. And now my big question in that is, I think that will be a bucket. My hope is that people will end up caring about it. My fear is they don't give a fucking shit because they're too busy watching the Kardashians, and then it will just be like, 5% of people, not even 1% of people yelling at clouds going, but look, you can make your cash private. You can do your loans privately. You can take your self-sovereign digital identity, which means that you won't be subject to Google's and Apple's user agreements all the time, and you won't like. But I just think most people just go, yeah, I'll just trade it off.
Well, most people living in like democratic or relatively democratic countries that are relatively free don't value that affordance. People
Right,
who are living in like autocratic societies have a different set of
right.
values and may be much more exposed to it, which is why I think crypto in general is much more interesting in like authoritarian states in terms of providing kind of a social fabric that people can use to resist the rules if the rules are actually antisocial, right? Like if
Right.
90% of people agree that the rules are antisocial, it provides a venue that everybody can go to transact safely, but against the rules of which would ordinarily require a central authority, because you don't need a central authority anymore. You have a new venue. And so I think it creates like healthy competition with the traditional institutions that have historically set the rules in domains like finance, right? So it provides a competitive force which should hopefully keep more of those institutions, or at least keep those institutions more honest.
Do you think in a democratic world then, or a more democratic world, that part of the interest is in programmability, like smart contracts and programmable money, where you're able to reduce bureaucracy and steps in these places because you're able to automate or verify things quicker? Certain things are more transparent because it's a public ledger. So to go back to the borrowing money example, I'm able to immediately prove I have X as collateral and I can borrow Y against that, and I have to click two buttons and it's done.
I mean, the biggest issue for me about this, I kind of like to hear what Alex thinks about this. Like the reason that I focus on the inefficiency of crypto systems is because all of the affordances that you just mentioned, whether it's privacy through encryption or the kind of asymmetric cryptography, which is, effectively provides, cryptographic signatures and everything, an open ledger system so that everybody can see all the transactions going in and out. Like none of these things require the system to be an completely decentralized blockchain-based system. You can provide all of those things on a central ledger, and if you do it on a central ledger, the transaction time is order of magnitudes faster because it's not a peer-to-peer system. So you can do it using the kinds of databases which literally do transactions in like fractions of a second. And you also get you don't have the kind of cost associated with a blockchain based system. So blockchain based systems have to compensate people who provide what's referred to as a Sybil resistance mechanism, which is basically how you stop people spamming the network effectively. And so you have to have mining fees or whatever, and someone has to pay that bill. If you have a centralized system with someone operating the ledger, they can throttle actors that start to act in a way that is against the collective interests of all the users. So if they start to spam tiny transactions, you can effectively censor their activity. Now that's a double-edged sword. So the purpose of a crypto system is so that that kind of censorship can't happen, and in order to solve that, they have to have these proof of work games or proof of stake or whatever it is. But on the flip side, if you accept that the system is centrally controlled by a central regulator, then all of a sudden you're accepting the censorship resistance is in place, and therefore the trading it off is more attractive, and so you can have a more efficient system.